What about you and I?
I love you, Santana. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone else in this world. All I know about you and I is that because of that, I think anything's possible.
2009 marked the beginning of a show called Glee, a musical show that started a phenomenon that I don't think anyone could have really anticipated. And in the midst of all of this, on December 9th, 2009, an episode named Sectionals aired, and in an offhand comment, Brittany S. Pierce said,
If it were Santana and I would be dating.
And this is the beginning of something I don't think many people thought would take off as far as it did. There was hope, sure, but again, this was also 2009. So if you were to say that these two female characters were to get together, you would just be called delusional, and that would pretty much be the end of it. When I was watching the show as it was airing, I never really believed that anything would happen between Santana and Brittany. And that's not because I didn't want it to, but I just simply couldn't imagine the show actually leaning into it. In fact, you can find most of the relevant season 1 scenes that they have together in a 5-minute video on YouTube. It's not because I didn't want to believe, but in 2009, it kind of felt like it was pointless. But a lot of what made them popular was the background moments that they did have throughout the first season, and they didn't have anything truly to hold on to canonically until season 2, episode 4, Duets, where it's shown that they still have this friends with benefits thing going on. Now, this video isn't going to be a recap of their whole relationship or anything, but I can do that in a future video, possibly, because I genuinely really do enjoy talking about them. What I really want to talk about is how much I love them and their relationship and their dynamic and their characters as individuals and really just everything about them. Glee as a whole is a mess of a show, and I feel like every person who has been a fan has a love-hate relationship with it. But there is always something that keeps the Glee fans either nostalgic for it, or there is an aspect of the show that they hold on to with a love that has never fully died. For me, the nostalgia would be watching the New Directions win nationals in season 3 and having Tongue Tied play when they walk into the school for the first time. And the love that never dies falls in Brittana. I think it's best to start off this topic of Santana and Brittany as individual characters, which is a little bit ironic considering the first time we meet them, they're pretty much a tag team duo. But it's my video and I can do what I want. And I'm going to start off with Santana. Her journey in Glee begins in season 1, in which she is a part of the Cheerios, which is the cheerleading team at McKinley High, and she is ordered by Sue to take down the Glee Club by any means necessary. But basically, that means that her entire role in season 1 is pretty much antagonistic. She really just fits the archetype of a mean girl, and she really doesn't get much more than that until season 2. That doesn't mean that we don't get some interesting tidbits about her character here and there. For example, and as mentioned before, in sectionals when everyone in Glee Club is on a phone call after they find out that Puck was the one who actually got Quinn pregnant and not her boyfriend Finn, Brittany says her infamous line of,
Sex is not dating. If it were Santana and I would be dating.
To which everyone kind of just pauses and then they move forward after a couple awkward beats. Speaking of Brittany, in season 1 she is really mostly known for her one-liners.
Brittany.
Mr. Shu, is he your son?
And not being the sharpest tool in the shed. She was a charming character in her own right, and the way I would describe her is that she's very much the sun to Santana's moon. I know I said I was going to do this whole thing where I mention them as individuals, but it's really hard not to mention one character without the other because they're pretty much inseparable. Which brings me to the next thing that I want to mention, and it's when they go on the date with Finn. And I say they because literally both Brittany and Santana go on this date by Sue's suggestion. I guess we can call it a suggestion and not a coercion. It's a coercion.
Let us give you an introduction into the way that we work. You buy us dinner, and we make out in front of you.
And with that, I want to talk about how I don't think this relationship was meant to be taken seriously from the start. I think it was just meant to be an offhand thing that gets mentioned here and there, but it wasn't actually meant to go anywhere. But Glee was also airing at a very interesting point in time where social media was taking off. And I truly believe that Glee did hear out its fans, which I don't always think is a good thing because fans always complain about what they want and what they don't want. And I always think that shows and writers should always focus on what the characters want and what the characters need and where the story is guiding them through that lens more than anything. But I'll digress on that whole point for now because that could be a whole video in and of itself. And while I think in the long run the writers started doing things in spite of the fans, it did give us Brittana, and I can't really argue too much with that. More importantly, Naya Rivera, who plays Santana, also really pushed for them to be taken seriously and not to be taken as a joke.
You know, it started off as like this funny thing, like, oh yeah, she just randomly hooks up with her friend Brittany. But I kind of was encouraging them to make it more serious and not play around with it, because there are people out there that, you know, it's not a joke to, it's their real lives, so
So there's also that, and I'm forever grateful for her for speaking up for the couple. Season 2 is where their story truly kicks off. As stated before, in Season 2, Episode 4, Duets, we see that Santana and Brittany are still hooking up and getting their sweet lady kisses on. But Santana refuses to sing a duet with Brittany because it's not like she's in love with her or anything, and she wants to sing about making lady babies. And this leads to Santana singing a duet with Mercedes, and I do want to give a shout out to one of the best songs in the series. But in true Glee fashion, this storyline doesn't really get brought up again until Season 2, Episode 15. And if my math is correct, that is a whole 11 episodes, which is actually insane. And this is where Brittana really starts flying. But let's start at the beginning of it all. In Season 2, Episode 15, Brittany brings up the idea of their relationship to Santana, to which she adamantly is against speaking about. But Brittany convinces her to speak to a teacher, in this case, Holly Holiday. And Holly Holiday suggests that these two sing a song to help express their feelings more openly. The song of choice is Landslide.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older too.
And this is where Santana is finally able to get her feelings out. Granted, it's more of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation, because when Rachel makes her comments,
Can I just applaud this trio for exploring the uncharted world of sapphic charm? Brava.
Santana doesn't like someone trying to force this label on her because it's not something that she herself is fully ready to accept. But at the end of the episode, she fully accepts that she has feelings for Brittany and makes her confession.
I love you, and I don't want to be with Sam, Finn, or any of those other guys. I just want you.
And she is ultimately rejected since Brittany is dating Artie at this time, and she has genuine feelings for him too. Now, I don't want to paint Brittany in a bad light here because she does acknowledge Santana's feelings, and in a way she does accept them, and she would proudly be with her if she didn't also have feelings for Artie too. But Santana is understandably pretty upset, and she storms off. They are not really on good terms for a while, but when Artie and Brittany break up after Artie calls her stupid, Santana sings Songbird for her.
And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before.
And it's one of my favorite performances, if I'm being completely transparent. It's very simple and true and honest, and you can really feel the emotion of the song from Santana. When Brittany asks why Santana couldn't sing that to her in front of everyone, Santana admits that she's not ready for that kind of announcement just yet. But Brittany, in all of her strength and all of her love, tells her that she'll go first. All Santana has to do is go on Fondue for Two, which is Brittany's web series, and say yes to going to prom with her. But Santana still has too much fear inside of her.
My guest today was supposed to be Santana, but she texted about an hour ago and it just said I can't.
And that's what's really at the crux of Santana's storyline in Season 2. This fear of coming out and having everybody look at her differently and treat her differently simply because she loves another girl. I mean, this is someone who is on top of the social pyramid at her high school. She's seen what's happened to Kurt simply for being gay, and she doesn't think that it's something that she could handle. Nowadays, I feel the storyline is not necessarily obsolete because homophobia is still a major issue, but it is still a little more scarce to see a storyline take this route. Thankfully, we have more representation across all types of mediums, but this really was a revolutionary character in 2010. To see Santana, a major character on a massive TV show, struggle with her sexuality and eventually come to terms with it was extremely important for a lot of people who were going through something similar. Continuing on with this theme of fear, Santana starts dating Karofsky in a plan of mutually assured destruction. Karofsky is also a closeted athlete at McKinley, and Santana suggests being beards. Now that I mentioned this whole Karofsky thing, I can also mention one of my favorite scenes, which is a pretty small scene. Technically, Brittany and Santana don't really talk and interact in the scene, but it's enough of a moment that I can bring it up. And it's honestly one of my favorite scenes because it really just tells me that these two are meant for each other. So I'll explain. Something Jacob Ben Israel is interviewing Santana, and when he asks her if she feels that she and Karofsky are soulmates, she looks to Brittany, who is watching them in the background, and replies,
Yeah. I'd say that was accurate.
And I really just wanted to mention this because I honestly love it so much. I mean, it's really just telling me that these two are meant to be together and they're soulmates, and that's just my endgame right there. Moving forward, we have a Gaga episode where the New Directions sing Born This Way, and Brittany suggests a shirt for Santana to wear, which is supposed to say lesbian. Which is well-meaning, but Santana rejects the idea and reminds Brittany that she is dating Karofsky now, and Brittany has the appropriate reaction of...
It's gross.
Eventually, Brittany storms off frustrated because she hopes that Santana would someday love herself as much as she loves Santana, and she would put that shirt on and she would dance with her. I haven't really talked about Brittany too much throughout all of this season 2 talk, but I really love her contrast to Santana. In my opinion, she's always seemed much more the fearless type through it all. She could recognize that keeping this secret was only ever going to hurt Santana, even in the prom episode where they are very much not together and Santana is running for prom queen with Karofsky. When Santana loses, Brittany is the one to go comfort her, and she's assuring her that she would have won if people saw the real awesomeness that is Santana Lopez. Which I don't really know how true that is, because that school is homophobic as hell. But the sentiment is still very sweet. In the final episode of season 2, the New Directions are pretty pissed at the Nationals results after Finn and Rachel's kiss cost them a top spot. And to change Santana's perspective of it all, Brittany explains that this year wasn't about winning, but acceptance and family, which is something that Santana can very clearly resonate with, even though she seems to push back on it in the beginning. But they end this season on good terms, and things are looking up for Brittany and Santana. Which brings us to the start of season 3, where Santana and Brittany are already in a relationship, which would have been great to see, but apparently it happened over summer, and we never get to see any of that. And while they are not an out couple...
I was wondering if maybe you'd like to do dinner tonight.
Oh, I can't. I have plans with a friend.
They are very much dating.
Are we dating? Or what?
Wait, isn't this a date? Aren't you paying? Because I ordered shrimp.
The big storyline surrounding Brittana falls under Santana's coming out. Now, she didn't get to come out on her own terms because she was forcibly outed by an ad campaign after Finn Hudson outed her in a hallway and someone overheard. Now, I have no intention of this being a negative video by any means, but golly gee. If this isn't one of my least favorite handle storylines in Glee, then I really don't know what is. And that's really saying something because Glee was throwing shit at a wall for a while. Okay, I don't mind a storyline handling a character being outed because it does happen and it does suck. And I think that as long as it happens, it will always be a relevant story to tell. Santana's anger was completely justified, and while hitting people is not necessarily a good thing, it was Snix' doing, and I can't really even blame her for that. This is a joke, just in case my tone doesn't indicate that. But all of this did give us one of the best songs in the series.
Never mind, I'll find someone like you.
So I guess there's that. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Santana has been an angel, especially to Finn this entire season. And I honestly think they made her worse just to justify this outing, but I won't get into that. But the concept of outing someone is so unreasonable that I can't believe he just threw that out there in the hallway. And then to blackmail her and sing her some songs and have it somehow all be better was just some nonsense. And then for Santana's coming out to her parents to just be her saying she told them and they were cool with it after I Kissed a Girl was just an odd decision. To not even get that time for something that is such a big story for Santana was just disheartening as a fan. A side note though, I Kissed a Girl is an absolute banger, and I don't care if the whole song is just performative lesbianism. It honestly just goes kind of hard. And I'm sorry, I know. And apparently she had a whole scene where she came out to the Cheerios, but that was cut too, which is an odd decision, especially since it was her big storyline, but sure, I guess.
There's a campaign ad running for the first time tonight that says that I'm gay. Now my friends in Glee Club think that this is something that I should be open and upfront about, not for other people, but for myself. It's no secret that Brittany and I are together. At first, I thought that it was a phase. You know, just a fun thing that would eventually go away. But I guess what I've realized is that I am gay. It's who I am. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Feel free to tell me, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm a natural-born leader, and I'm not afraid to cut a bitch.
Either way, that's enough negativity for me for now. Not to say that the next topic is going to be more positive, but when Santana does come out to her abuela, she doesn't take it very well, and she gets kicked out of the house. I know I said that's enough negativity, but I'm gonna lament about one more thing. Glee had such a big cast of characters that all deserved more screen and story time than they got. And Santana's coming out storyline is a great example of this because we're not really gonna hear about her abuela or her deal with coming out other than a couple of side comments, and it's just really unfortunate. But getting on to a lighter side of things, now Brittana is pretty much in full swing in terms of being out and being together. Santana is even fighting against the idea that she can't kiss Brittany in the hallway because of some Bible thumpers have a problem with it. And it's so nice to see her not only be open, but also actively fighting for the openness of her relationship. By the end of the episode, the God Squad, which consists mostly of Glee Club members anyway, sing Cherish to Brittany as part of their vocal Valentine's thingy, and it's super sweet and loving and wonderful. Actually, you know what? I want to talk about Brittany for a second because it's been a while since I've spoken about her. Brittany S. Pierce really embodies the my pace mentality, or at least I feel her character at her best does. She always seemed like the type of person who had no inhibition when it came to who she was.
I don't just want to be known as, Kurt Hummel homo.
What's wrong with that? Look, 99% of the kids at this school are either freaks or closet freaks. The captain of the football squad, he gets the job, but he doesn't represent the people. That's why we need a unicorn.
And she really tries to get the people she loves to embrace that mentality too. In season 2 and season 3, Brittany is the one who wants Santana to be able to embrace herself so that she could be a more free person and love herself the way that she loves Santana. Another example is in Saturday Night Gleaver, when Santana is all about her one and only mistress, fame, and nothing else. Brittany is taking it to some mighty extremes to prove a point to her about what it might cost her to get said fame. Now, I will say I don't agree with a lot of what she did, specifically a release of a certain tape the two of them had together, and releasing it was messed up for a variety of reasons that I can't even begin to start with. But if I were to push that to the side, which is a crazy thing to say, I know, but Glee does this thing where characters have reprehensible actions and then there are no consequences to it, so once again, I don't condone it. But in spite of all of this, Brittany pushed Santana to realize that fame, by any means necessary, shouldn't be something to strive for. And throughout all of this, Brittany got Santana an acceptance letter and a full ride to the University of Louisville for cheerleading, so she can go to college and aim higher. Now, if we jump a little bit ahead to season 4, Santana is not having a great time in Louisville at all. She feels as if she's being stifled and caged, and she needs to go out into the world to follow her dream. But at the same time, that's pretty scary because the world is big and remorseless. But can we take a guess as to who is the one to convince Santana to go ahead and follow her dreams and believe in herself to achieve greater things? Yes, that's right. It's Mr. Shu. I'm kidding. It's Brittany S. Pierce being the best girlfriend. Well, not really, because they are broken up at this point. That she is.
I think you need to be somewhere that's as big and as hot as you are. It's okay to follow your dreams.
And we get Girl on Fire.
It's a lonely world, but she gon' let it burn, baby, burn, baby. This girl is on fire.
And it's another performance that I hold close to my heart. Santana finally takes her life in her own hands and believes in her ability to be great and heads off towards New York, where she goes to live with Rachel and Kurt. Well, I guess since I already broached the season 4 topic, I can just go ahead and talk about it. So in season 4, Brittany and Santana break up, and so do pretty much all of the main couples on the show. Shout out to Mine by Taylor Swift.
I remember how we felt sitting by the water. She is the best thing that's ever been mine.
At this point, Brittany and Santana are in a long-distance relationship because Santana is in Louisville for college, and Brittany is finishing her senior year at McKinley because she did end up failing. And because of this, Santana feels that they are unable to provide the attention that they need for each other. It's not necessarily something that they are happy about, but something that they feel needs to be done so the other can live their life. But these two are very much still in love with each other, even when they are not together, and the bond that they have is everlasting, I guess is the best way to put it, and that can be seen whenever they come back to see each other. Okay, I'm going to be 100% honest here. I have seen seasons 4, 5, and 6 of Glee in its entirety a whole one time. So I'm just going to say what I like about their breakup conceptually, if that makes sense. I like that we got to see them more as individuals away from each other and the possibility of what that meant for their characters. But I said possibility for a reason. When it comes to Brittany's character, I will hold to the fact that I really didn't like her relationship with Sam. And don't get me wrong, I genuinely really like Sam as a character, but the writers did both of them a disservice when they were together. The only way I can really put it without being too harsh is that when Brittany and Santana were together, Brittany felt more like a character. And when Brittany and Sam were together, both of those characters felt more like a joke. Now, I could be wrong when I say this. After all, it has been a couple of years since I've seen seasons 4, 5, and 6, but that's what I left with when I watched it all those years ago. As for Santana, she dates someone named Danny in New York. And I really don't have much to say about this relationship at all, so I'm not going to. There was nothing wrong with it, but I just don't have anything to say. Oh yeah, Quinn and Santana also sleep with each other at some point, so there's that. Moving on, at the end of season 4, Brittany goes off to MIT because they realize that she is actually a genius in disguise, and she finds her way back to McKinley again in season 5. But she's not her normal Brittany self, and I know I just skipped over a lot of season 5, but we're gonna ignore that. She is a much more stifled version who is only focused on math and her other smarty pants stuff. And this is the time where Santana is there for her to get back into her groove, something Brittany has done for her many times in the past. And this is what I mean when I say Brittany feels more like a character when she's with Santana. Like there was a genuine person in there and not just some caricature who was there for a laugh. Don't get me wrong, she's still very much there for comic relief and one-liners, but there was more to her as well. Maybe it's just the history they have, but seeing the way that they support each other is just heartwarming. And Brittany pretty much does the same thing for Santana not long after. So I really didn't mention a lot of season 5. In this video, it is pretty big for Santana because she is in New York and she is following her dreams. And she ends up auditioning for Rachel's understudy in the Broadway show Funny Girl, which these two are not exactly chummy about, to say the least. They are definitely not in a good place.
You are short, you are awful, and that is never gonna change.
But at this point in the story, Santana is stuck on being a star. And in her mind,
A star is a star. It doesn't matter where in the sky I shine.
and while she's not technically wrong, it's also not something that she truly wants. She doesn't have a dream to be a Broadway star or anything. And she's being pretty unreasonable to Rachel to get the lead role in Funny Girl. But Brittany is able to get through to her and make her realize that her walking away from this is actually a win for her because it's her life to lead and not a life that she has to prove to someone else to be great. Now, I feel like a broken record at this point, but truly both these characters are at their best when they are with each other. Having them separate for some time only really made me appreciate what they had when they got back together. If you've ever experienced Glee Season 6, then congratulations for being part of the 1%. I don't really know what I meant by that, but it felt right. The only people that have seen Glee Season 6 are either true Glee fans or people that binged it whenever it was on Netflix or Hulu or Disney or wherever it is now. And it's pretty much a fever dream from start to finish. And at the end of Brittany and Santana's storyline, they get married. Something I will say about Season 6, though, is that out of the last 3 seasons of the show, Season 6 does remain my favorite of the 3. At this point, Glee has given into its absolute ridiculousness and is not afraid to hide or shy away from that fact. But let me rewind a little bit before the Brittana wedding. The Glee Club is struggling to get members after it was previously disbanded, and all of the new directions are back at McKinley to try to get it back up and running. But Rachel and Kurt are having a little bit of a struggle to get the ball rolling, so Santana and Brittany decide to perform a mashup of Hand in My Pocket and I Feel the Earth Move.
Yeah, I got one hand in my pocket, baby. When I see your face, mellow as a Mother May. Oh, darling, I can't stand it when you look at me that way.
Which is an awesome mashup and a genuine top 5 Brittana scene for me. And to top it all off, Santana proposes to Brittany at the end of it, and she says something that encapsulates their relationship.
Some people love someone because they make them a better person, and that's not why I love you, because you've always just wanted me to be myself.
And of course, Brittany says yes. Previously, I mentioned that Santana's abuela, remember all those seasons ago that I was saying we don't really talk about because storylines don't happen? But her abuela was not cool with the gays and ended up kicking Santana out of her house. Of course, Santana refuses to even invite her to the wedding, but Brittany has other ideas, albeit a little bit wild. But she goes behind Santana's back to befriend her grandma to try and make her realize that the love she and Santana have is just like any other. When Santana finds out, of course, she's not really happy about it, because who would be? And I don't know why, but this line from Brittany always makes me laugh.
You came out to Abuela 10 years ago, okay? Times have changed.
It was 3 years ago, and nothing has changed for her.
Maybe it's the absolute certainty she says it with, I don't know. But after a little bit more conversation between the two, Santana can't stay mad at Brittany for too long because she knows that she did this with the best of intentions, and when they have their confrontation with Abuela, she is still very much on the side of gay bad. But Brittany is not having any of it this time, and she stands up for Santana.
Good. I'm glad you're not coming. You know, the New York Times, said half the increase in support of gay marriage is due to generational turnover. That's what smart people call crazy uptight bitches dying. You guys lost, okay? And honestly, the rest of us are just going about our business being normal and waiting for you not to be around. And not because you can stop us from getting married, but just because you're kind of annoying.
And we have finally reached the wedding day. Overall, we get a happy ending because Santana's abuela comes around with a little help of reverse psychology, I think it was called. And she wants to see her granddaughter on one of the happiest days of her life. But it honestly just feels so good to know that at the end of this entire journey, Brittany and Santana end up happily married. In all honesty, I stopped watching Glee around 2012. So I never watched this episode when it aired, and I watched it around 7 or 8 years after it aired. But I most certainly did hear about it. And to a younger me, this meant so much. To this day, there are times when I think about Brittana and my heart swells a little bit. And I know that might sound lame, but again, to a younger me who felt more alone, this really meant a lot. I still go back and watch their scenes sometimes, which is basically what sparked this video. For as much as I have a love-hate relationship with Glee, I'm genuinely grateful that it exists as a show, and I'm appreciative that Brittana was an idea that was put out into this world.